All right, everyone, and I think we're live. Comment in the chat if you're watching us live. You want to interact as always. And this is a typical Sunday morning. Now it's getting back to Saturday evening here in Canada. We're doing this live. I'm once again with Mandi. Mandi, how's it going today?
Really, really well. Thank you, Etienne. I'm sorry that you're back in the cold. It's 30 degrees here today, so
Yeah.
I know it totally beats your -2 degrees in Canada.
It was 35 a few days ago. I don't know what happened. Suddenly it's like really cold. Yeah. Missed the
You
part.
got
Anyway.
time traveled into a different part of the world.
that's probably the thing. Awesome. So guys, we're gonna answer a question I got today that's I think really interesting. How to get in the zone whenever you trade. And is there such thing as the like perfect zone to perform at your best? I think that's useful because what I've seen over time is that if you are trading none of like zone, but if you trade in the wrong mindset, you typically do things wrong. And typically that is the right way to go. So I see we have Naga watching. Welcome, Naga. Awesome. Naga Montreal. That's great. Alejandro and Ricardo. Wonderful. So,
Hello,
Mehdi, I
everyone.
kind of want to go first with what you think about kind of what is the optimal zone to trade with or to trade in.
Mm-hmm. That's a really interesting question because what is the zone? Um, what is defined as a zone is a place where we make optimal decisions. And when we put that on the flip side, means that if we are not in the zone, that we are more prone to making mistakes based on our emotional capital, based on impulsive behavior, feeling fear of missing out. So first we need to become clear about what is the purpose for us wanting to get into the zone.
I get kind of that way. Alejandro says, I think the weather is trying to compensate for you being in hot places for so long. And I think that's possible. No joke, like just outside the topic. But yesterday evening, as soon as I got in the house, it started to snow, like right away. And it's kind of funny. Yeah, I know what happened. Anyway,
It
okay, back to it.
cooled you down. But it's a really good point, because if you look at the weather, right? You want to get into the zone, and the weather is a great example. So you were for the last 3 months in Asia where it was really, really hot. And now you're in Montreal where it's like freezing and snow. So you need to adjust to optimal performance.
Yeah.
That means in Asia, you walk around in jeans and t-shirt, in shorts and t-shirt. In Montreal, you walk around in thick jackets and boots. And this is kind of like what you need to do with optimal performance, because you don't wake up every day the same.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but I don't. Sometimes I wake up and I'm exuberant and it's like, yay, bring it on, world. I'm ready for you. And then I need to scale myself down, because then I am in the danger of becoming superwoman, right? Or having a superwoman syndrome or superhero syndrome in your context. So then I need to scale down. Sometimes, I had a bad night in trading, or something happened in my private life. And, I wake up in a shitty mood, and then I need to lift myself. So what we need to look at is, what is the neutral average? And this is the same with the whole positive thinking movement. I'm so against positive thinking, Etienne. You don't believe it. It's
Yeah.
destroying people's soul. And I was working with someone who had something really horrible happening to her, and then people say immediately to her, well, what's the positive? What can you learn out of that? And it's like, fuck off, seriously. And I'm sorry that I'm swearing, but this is how strong I feel about it. Because when someone is in pain and hurt, positive thinking is not the right place. Positive thinking is not addressing reality, in my opinion. Negative thinking, on the other hand, is also not helping. So how about neutral thinking? What happened happened, and it's painful and it's stressful and all that comes with it. How can I process the information? How can I heal from the information? How can I move on and keep performing when I have to perform? Because she's a mother of kids. She can't just stop and feel sorry for herself. She needs to keep going for her kids. And it's the same with trading, Etienne. The reason why I mentioned that is we had the so here it was Thursday morning at 8 o'clock. The Dow dropped 500 points because of a tweet from Trump. And that hurt a lot of traders. Like some traders lost so much money that they can't even afford to lose. And to say, think positively, what can you learn from that? That is not getting you in the right zone to keep going and do what you need to do in order to survive this event emotionally, so that you have a trading career that spans over the next 50 years. Because in that moment, something harsh happened and you need to first come to terms with it. So getting to the trading zone is not a one trick pony answer. It depends on, this is your core, right? Your trading zone, where you feel strong, you feel confident, you feel certain, you feel humble. And then you need to look at where are you in context of that core. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And then you move yourself into the place.
And I feel like one mistake, this is a great point, I feel like one mistake people could make is that they say, so like your example before, they say, well, I only trade well, let's say in Asia. And then every time they're not in Asia, they trade really bad because that's like how they feel. But it's always going to be to kind of get back to the right zone and the right place, which I feel is kind of hard to understand, but you get a grasp of it over time. I think I got to understand like where I trade best and where I'm really bad. Like I know if I don't check the chart properly in the morning, I'll trade bad, and I just won't be in the zone. So how can we identify kind of what's the best zone for us? And I guess it's going to depend for everyone, no?
Mm-hmm. It's I had this conversation with a trader recently. Oh, you're in Denmark, says FX. Well, I'm going to be in Norway, hopefully in June for a conference. So come and join us there. It's just around the corner for you. So it depends on, what was your question again? Sorry, I just lost.
So how do we find what's the right zone for us to trade?
The right zone. Yeah. So at the beginning, I was so not in tune with myself that I needed to look for external pointers that told me how I was feeling. I would do things like stand on one leg, and when I was wobbling a lot, that was a sign for me that I was also internally out of whack. And talking about yoga, right? I love doing yoga. So I knew when I do my yoga poses and I was not stable, that was a reflection of how I felt on the inside. And when I was stable, like doing the tree pose, that was also a reflection how solid and grounded I felt inside. That is how simple it can start. Nowadays, I know myself so well that I wake up in the morning and I have I have immediately an understanding of how I feel. So that could be something like an underlying current of anxiety that many, many, many people grow up with. And it's so subtle that before I mentioned this, no one would have noticed it. Now, when you wake up tomorrow morning, you might notice this underlying current of anxiety that most of the population lives with. That could be an example of you're out of the zone. So it's about knowing yourself. It can be in your posture where you wake up in the morning and you start, you already hunched over, because hunching over is a protective mechanism. That means that you also feel not certain about yourself. It could be something simple. So it starts with our posture. It doesn't end there. Someone read a book, and that book said, well, when you're in a bad state, simply work on your physiology. That's what Tony Robbins says, and you will feel strong about yourself again. This is not what Tony Robbins says. Tony Robbins says there's 3 parts to us getting into the zone. Part of it is physiology. So when you feel down, start lifting yourself up, because you can't breathe properly. Your intestines don't get enough oxygen. There's not enough oxygen going to your brain when you are hunched over. That's where it starts. And then you start observing your thoughts. And you say, I notice that I have an underlying current of anxiety before I get to the market. And Etienne, there were times where I was like, I was afraid to go to my computer and open up my trading platform.
Yeah. It happened to me before too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't know why. Why is that so? Even if I had a really good week, there was this underlying current of fear. And I tried to just push it to the side and ignore it, and that never ended well. So when you have this underlying current of fear, take it serious and say, I notice I have this underlying current of anxiety. There's something going on for me. And write it down into your journal, because you want to process it through as many modalities as you can. So you're thinking. When you say it out loud, you have to articulate it. When you write it down in handwriting, not computer writing, because it's a different process in your neural pathways. When you write it down, again, you process, and this is how you start releasing and dealing with your anxieties. And then it would be really interesting to see what happened, what could have been the trigger for that, because there's always a trigger. Now, triggers can be two different parts of triggers. It can be a trigger that is something happened that triggered an unconscious memory from your very, very past. That was a situation that was painful, and that could have triggered the underlying current of anxiety. So, for example, what happened this morning was in Germany, a lorry plowed into a city in Münster in Germany, where people were sitting in a pedestrian zone and having coffee. And I was there having coffee with my friends, when I grew up, because I had friends all over all over Germany, because Münster is a university city. And so I went to visit some fellow students and had coffee there. Now that was 20 years ago when I did that, or even longer. And this morning I grew up with this, I woke up with this, wow, I was there. That could have been me. Now, because I'm so aware of myself, I know that there's this connection between underlying current of what happened, of feeling out of whack today, and the memory of me sitting there. If I'm not self-aware, I would not have made that connection. And now I can go back and come to terms with it and be strong tomorrow and back in the zone for my trading. Does it make sense?
Yeah, so I'm curious to know, whenever something like this happens, and let's say this was just before you start to trade for the session, I know you have like some experience as a coach and you kind of detach yourself from feeling a little bit sometimes and you're used to that. But how would you react to this? What would you do with that? Would you just start to trade and see how you feel the first couple of trades, or?
So I know how I feel, how I have to feel in order to perform in trading. And I also know what makes me feel better. And what most people do, they unconsciously use food and alcohol and other addictions like shopping, etc., to suppress their feelings. I do that with volition. So when let's say I woke up with this, so people tagged me on Twitter, look what happened in Germany. I was like, oh my God, and was emotionally touched. If I had to start trading, I would placate myself with food intentionally, because I know that works. So I would have a really big breakfast that makes me feel grounded. And that numbs the feeling. So when we eat, that overrides feelings. We don't feel that anymore as badly. If it were in the afternoon, I would have a chocolate. So anything that we deem as not so healthy but keeps us grounded, I would work with that with volition. Does it make sense? So, yeah.
And there's a big difference between doing that only in circumstances when you just really need it, as opposed to like all the time. So yeah,
Exactly.
I think that's a good point.
So I'm in control of my addictions rather than at the mercy of it. And I did this thing on Twitter as well, where my mom, she sent me this beautiful Lindt chocolate Easter bunny. And she sent it to me like 10 days before Easter because she was worried I don't get it on time. And then I did the marshmallow experiment with myself, where I trained myself not to eat it. Yeah. And it was like sitting there and I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to eat it. But I did not. And I did eat it on the Trump morning when the market dropped, because that was like, I got DMs and emails from people who lost a lot of money and were in pain. And that affected me, right? And then I was like, now is the perfect time to have my Easter bunny. And I took this moment for myself, because in that moment we connect with ourselves. And then I went on and dealt with whatever my clients had to deal with. So it was just by a pure coincidence that I had an Easter bunny. Could have been something else. Does it make sense?
Yeah. So now, what if you're at a point where you are kind of losing every day? Let's say you're a beginning trader who's losing every single day, and you kind of find a way to make money, and you feel bad every day for losing money. Would you still eat your chocolate every day, or I guess not? Right?
Okay, that's a fantastic question. So that's the other. What we just discussed was, we are in the flow with the market, with ourselves, with the ups and downs. We know how to regulate ourselves, and then something happens that whacks us out, and then to whack us back in, we do that intentionally. And then there is the other where we don't know as yet what our zone is, which often is with those traders who start out losing money every day. And we need to find a way to deal with that, with losing money every day, because that's part of being a beginning trader. And it's hard, it's painful. And I remember when I learned how to play tennis, man, I was trying to do my serve. So I threw the ball in the air, I hit the tennis ball and missed it. It's like, oh man, so I did it again and missed it, and did it again and missed it. And it was so frustrating. Now, the difference is that there was nothing at stake. There was, my emotions at stake, and my, how I look in front of my peers as a, 6, 7-year-old. But there wasn't money at stake as much. And when money comes to the equation, there is a lot at stake, because money is such, carries so much judgment and carries so much emotions and experiences and identities and beliefs about who we are and who we are not. So to get to the point, when we keep losing money and we are feeling stressed about it or hurt about it, we need to do the deep dive work around what is going on. Why do we feel this way? So let's say, I need to get some of my early journals. Oh my God, Etienne, they were like, lost money again. What is wrong with me? At the time, I didn't swear. I was still well behaved. I only started swearing when I got around, traders. They seem to trade a lot. So I was like, what's wrong with me? I keep losing money. When do I get it? I will never achieve my dream. I was so down on myself. And so I was writing my journal how I felt, but that was pushing me deeper into the quicksand rather than helping me to resolve my issues, which I had plenty of, Etienne, plenty. So what would have been a more useful way, what the journal that we did in our last training, right? The, what did you call it again? Fast track to full-time Forex trading. Yeah. Exactly that. Remember the one that we did where you write down what happened. Losing trade, feel really down on myself, feel really bad, discouraged, embarrassed, hopeless, whatever it is. And then we question that. It's like, all right, so is that really the reality? Is that really that we are hopeless? And then we have to say, well, no, not really, but this is how I feel. And I say, okay, so what could change that feeling? And this is what I love Abraham Hicks, Ask and You Shall Receive. It's a little bit too woo-woo for me, but there's some really good, useful ways of growing and dealing with your pain. And one of that is, what would make you feel a tiny little bit better? Like 1%. So right now, I'm feeling despair, I'm feeling disappointment, I'm feeling whatever I feel on the emotional scale. What would make me feel a little bit better? And chocolate is not the answer, because chocolate only placates it, it suppresses it, but it doesn't resolve it. Well, if I would find out how to stop being so impulsive. All right, so yeah, finding it out, that would make me feel a little bit better. And then how can I find that out? Oh, there's this amazing book from Steve Ward, because I love it, High Performance Trading, and maybe I find some answers in there. Or I go on one of Etienne's podcasts. There's some great trading psychology guys, and all the guys that you interview, they share their trials and tribulations on what they went through. Maybe I listen to them, and immediately we start feeling better, because now we are solution focused. We're not stuck. We're not stuck in the past and wallow in our pain. We start looking for solutions, and that is what makes us feel better. And then you go into a podcast and someone shares the experiences of how they had the challenges when they started out and how they overcome it, and it's like, wow, I'm not alone, and I can do what this person did.
Yeah, I feel like a big mistake people might make at this point is that they're gonna think like they have to feel a little bit better, but they're gonna try to go way too far. So like not losing money, and that's gonna be how they can feel better. So I feel like it's a hard task to kind of chop it out in different parts and pick only the 1%, which can be a little bit, takes some practice.
Now that's a big jump, and what you said is really interesting, Etienne, because where is it where they're looking for the feeling better? It's in the external, right?
Yeah, the outcome. Yeah.
So the feeling better, and thanks for sharing that. Drink water and go to the gym. That is also an external. That is helping it. So it's like the physiology. It's the external. It helps, and you also need to do the internal work. So the feeling better needs to come from the inside. That means you need to resolve whatever needs to be resolved on the inside. If for me, my internal dialogue, which I didn't understand for years, it's just that's why I was so stuck in it. My internal dialogue was a reflection of how I felt about myself. Right? I never had achieved anything big. Well, in my model of the world. I was a loser in my model of the world. My brother was the one who was so super successful, one of the best lawyers in Germany, diplomatic contacts, having built up business around the world. And I was the little useless one, the sweet one in the family. And I never saw myself as someone who can be successful. I was not aware of that. I thought that about myself. I know that now in hindsight, with all the training that I had. My conversations, my journal was a reflection of, I am not good enough. I don't belong. I'm not loved, and I will only be loved if I finally crack this trading thing.
And so I think if you have that mindset before you start to trade, it's going to be really hard to be in the right zone when you trade. It's kind of this big thing that kind of impacts everything you do. So I think that's the first thing to work on, definitely.
Exactly. So the getting into the zone when you start out is very different to getting to the zone for me after 15 years of trading.
Yeah.
Getting to the zone is, I know what my zone is. I know what my benchmarks are. I know how I have to feel internally. And I notice that I'm not there, and I adjust myself accordingly. When you start out, you don't know what your zone is. You don't know what your feel good performance hub is. And you need to find out. So where the work starts for new traders who have this kind of thought patterns that I had, and I don't think everybody had, then you need to start the work within yourself. Because what is it that makes the sun shine, Arthur, where it's cloudy weather in Sydney and it's sunny in Melbourne? What is it that makes the
I think it froze on Mandy's side. I don't know if Mandy's back. Huh, interesting. Let's take a quick look. I think you guys know in the chat if it kind of froze on your side. I'm just curious. Maybe not. Yeah, that's right there. Okay, so I think it froze a little bit. All right, that's funny. So guys, I'll take a look at the chat and see if you guys have any question. I know we have Alejandro, Archer, and Scott. Welcome, guys. So too much on my phone. Oh, Mandy, you're back. Wonderful.
Oh my god, it's so funny.
I think you had wait. Okay, you had two places. It's kind of okay.
Oh, this is weird. Yeah. So let me disconnect this one.
Sorry.
Okay.
I
Gone.
pushed you out.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, sorry
Good.
guys. Quick interruption. That was the break. We're back on the live thing. Cool.
Cool. Where did you guys lose me?
So we were talking about, I don't know, getting the zone. We said it's easier for experienced traders as opposed to beginning traders. And
Okay,
so
cool.
how can beginning traders start to find out what their zone is?
Cool. So let's suppose in trading happened what just happened, right? So got disconnected. I was in a trade and now I'm feeling like anxious. Right? It's like, what happened? Hope my trade is okay because I'm scalping, right? 2 seconds, 10 seconds can make all the difference. And now I'm having this feeling of anxiousness in my body. How do I get myself back into the zone? Because this was interrupting my flow. And then because I'm already experienced, I know what to do. I need to breathe. I need to calm myself down and say, it's all good, you've got this. I totally got this. It's all good now. I was just a few seconds and just get myself back into focusing, immersing myself into the chart. Sitting up straight and maybe doing something that comforts me, like having water in that moment. Now, so we need to distinguish between we need to distinguish between is something that happened that got us out of the zone, or is it that we are constantly out of the zone and we try to learn to get into the zone? So I think that's where our conversation was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool.
Cool. I want to maybe dive into a little bit better with the journal. This is a question we had by Scott a couple of times. And I think the way you journal kind of can help you figure out what's the best zone to be in and like how you feel at your best. So I'm curious to know, and we've talked about this before in different modules, but any tips about kind of how to journal the proper way?
Scott, I think there is lots of examples in our last training. So I'm surprised that this question is asked. So when you say a better way to journal, what specifically do you mean?
Yeah. One thing I found for myself is that it's very easy to want to chase this next level, this next way to do things better. And that we might journal one way, but then we want to change over time. So might not be better, might be just a waste of time sometimes too.
Yeah, well, the thing is, what most people do when they journal, they just dump how they feel.
Yeah.
But they don't. The purpose of journaling is to process how you feel and to question how you feel and to see how do you feel in a different context. So how do you feel when you were in a trade and your trade was in profit and then you got taken out at a loss? You should feel differently to when you got into a trade and you got taken out at a loss before the trade went into profit. It could be how do you feel when you had a fight with a family member and you have to go into trading and you didn't perform? How do you feel when there was NFP and you didn't perform at the NFP announcement? So all those are different contexts, different circumstances. How do you feel after them? And now you can start creating a context, a list of what are your dangerous moments where you don't perform. So I know very well that I don't perform when I had a really good run. And so on Wednesday, it was the DAX out of the starting block went down and I was short like a world champion. And then the 5 minute was below the middle Bollinger the whole time. And then price went back up over the middle Bollinger after, I don't know, 150 point move. And I got out because that was my exit. And then it came back into underneath the middle Bollinger on the 5 minute. What I would have done in the past, my fear of missing out, and it's like, wow, there's more to get, there's more to get. I would get back into the trade. And often I would then get whipsawed out at a big loss and would have given away what I made on the first leg. Now, sometimes it continues to the downside and sometimes it doesn't. That's not the point. The point is that I know that when I get into the trade for a second take, for a second serving, that's when I'm at highest risk to stuff it up. And that's why I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And this is what you want to achieve in your journaling. You want to know what are the circumstances of your behavior, and your behavior is closely connected to how you feel. Yeah.
Totally agree with that. And I think I will agree also with the comment from Archer with massage. I think whenever I get a massage, like a proper one, I just feel better and more relaxed the next day to trade, or even the next week, or whatever. So that can be good, but also that's external. So if you start trading and you don't feel proper, don't try to get a massage and skip the session, because then you kind of counterproductive a little bit.
That's actually an interesting point you're making. I wonder, in Feldenkrais, we believe that our emotions are stored in the body, and through body work, you can release trauma. Very interesting. So I wonder, and it's just, I have never thought about it, just when you mentioned it now. I wonder if when we have a massage, that emotional trauma from trading, you had a big loss and you get a massage, that is actually being released. That could be an interesting viewpoint, huh?
Right.
Because you say you're feeling better afterwards.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I don't know. Just something to consider, maybe.
More research, yeah. Yeah, you try it out and you see if it works for yourself, definitely. Yeah. Cool. So we have a few questions. So Scott Precise is asking, so he's been journaling basis on his last trading. So yeah. Alejandro, this is interesting. So personally, I'm looking to improve my journaling workflow, getting more out of my journal, maybe streaming it. Yeah, okay. But make it more valuable to review. Yeah.
So what Alejandro is, sorry.
No, so one thing I noticed on that also is that I can write a lot of things in my journal, but they're not always valuable to review. And so that's something that I try to focus on, having things that are good for later. But some things, they're not there for later. They're just for now to write down and to think about them. So could be valuable, could not be valuable. It depends.
Yeah. What I noticed with Alejandro is he's very, very structured. And so he talks about a journaling workflow, which we did in the last training, right? We created a journaling workflow. So to rein in the crazy thoughts like, I'm not good enough, what's wrong with me? Because these are the thoughts that are not helping at all. It's the wrong questions to ask. Because if you say, I'm not good enough, what's wrong with me? You will find all the reasons what's wrong with you, and you will never make it in trading. And that was where I was stuck for such a long time. And that's why when you have a workflow, when you have a structure to your journal, then you direct your thoughts in a way that is useful. So you start out with, I suck, I'm not good enough, what's wrong with me? Then you question it, is that really true? Well, sometimes I do, but there are areas where I'm really doing well. And then how could you improve? What could make you feel 1% better? Yeah. So we use our crazy thoughts like wild monkeys, and then we put them into a structure and rein them in and get a really useful outcome.
Perfect. Of that. We had a good question here that I kind of wanted to answer. So this was, I think, Tago. After a sequence of win, how do you maintain the zone? Or I guess win or losses, how do you maintain the right zone?
What's the why are people so focused on having to be in the zone?
Because I
What
guess,
does it mean?
yeah, I think the principle is that if you're in the right zone, you make the right decision, and ultimately you get the right trade, which is not always how it works. So you can not
Yeah.
be in the zone, but just respect the plan and still get the same result, I think.
Yeah. So I was working with a trader yesterday, and she said that she has anxiety, and so she sees the trade set up, and she doesn't take the trade, and she's just frustrated, and she's trying not to get emotional about it, but it doesn't help. And then I said, how would it be if you just are as emotional as you want to be and still do your thing? Because she's got a proper trade plan, back tested it, wonderful performance. And she reckons that her emotions are holding her back. I question that. I say that her focusing on her emotions is holding her back. Because we all have that. Even my hedge fund guys, they have that. They're in the trade and they're like, oh, did I do the right thing? They question themselves all the time. So, yeah, blame Mark Douglas, even though his books are amazing, right?
Yeah.
So, even if it is, do we need the right mental state? Great point, Alejandro. But do we really need it to perform? It's like, I don't want to get up every morning at a certain time, and I do, even if I don't feel like it. So it's about allowing our emotions to be there and having our emotions and noticing it and acknowledging and saying, I feel really anxious now. And I'm doubting and questioning myself. And I really, really want to get out of this trade because I'm so worried that I'm going to give the profits back. Or I notice I don't want to take my loss because I don't want to take my loss. It hurts. It's uncomfortable. And I've been working so hard to build up all those profits. And now I have to give them back and acknowledge that. And it's normal. You're a normal human being. Welcome to being a human being, and do what needs to be done anyway.
Yeah.
What happens is, sorry, one more point. What happens is that traders in that moment, they start fighting their feelings, and that takes them away from dealing with the risky thing, with dealing with needing to press that button. So as long as you fight your feelings, you are being taken away, your focus is being taken away from doing your job. Does it make sense?
Yeah, totally, totally. And this is definitely without a doubt that it's something you develop over time. And you get, like, the more you do it, the more you get better at it, at doing whatever you need to do, even if you don't feel like it. And I definitely see that for myself as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. So the thing with the obsession with the zone, this is, in my opinion, traders trying to control. So that they don't feel they can control and master themselves. So they look for this external thing again, that once they have that, then they can control themselves. Then they won't have impulsive trades anymore.
Yeah.
But that's a misconception. That's the thing that keeps them stuck.
That's a good point. And I think the other thing that you might end up doing is that you think if you have a series of bad trade, the answer is just, oh, wrong zone, and let me get in the right zone, which is not always the case.
Not.
It could be the opposite.
Yeah, could be the market. It could be your trading system is not suited for. So I think it was even Wednesday. Yeah. So Wednesday I was short like a world champion, and I'm a reversal pattern trader, right? And then I didn't go long, and I didn't go short. I stopped trading, and I saw the long entry, right? I saw this, and then the market pushed up really, really hard. And there was reversal patterns all the way up, but they kept failing. And because I could read the market so well, that's an impulsive market, I did not trade this market because I knew my system doesn't work in this environment. Now, in the past, before I knew how to read the market environment so well, I would get in short and then taken out, get in short again, taken out, and lose a lot of money on the way. And here in Australia, we have rips, where the ocean just takes you out because it's this current that takes you out. And this is how the market was on Wednesday night, or your Wednesday during the day, where it came down hard and then it started going up and like a current sucking everything up. And these were the markets where I used to tend to lose a lot of money because I would follow my system blindly because that's what they taught me. Follow your strategy and you will be fine. No, wrong strategy for this market. So what you do when you're stuck in a current in Australia, you let the current take you out because it stops at some point, and then you can swim back, or you can swim across, or you wave like crazy if you're lucky that someone is on the beach, because we all here in Australia know when someone waves like this, they're stuck in the current and we need to call help.
Yeah.
So it's not always the mindset.
And I think two great point here. We had one from I think Alejandro, who said, yeah, it's not about the right zone, but more about the right state of mind, which I think if you have the right state of mind in life, you get the same right state of mind in trading most of the time. Could not like always be fit exactly, but it's always similar.
Yeah.
And we talk about like the money mindset and all these other things around. So yeah.
And I love what Alejandro says afterwards. It's right mental state is about knowing yourself, knowing what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so it will be different for everyone. I love that, Alejandro. It's exactly it.
Yeah. And also the comments just below. So this is Shadow. All trading indicators talk about the zone, yet 90% of traders lose. So yeah, I think that's pretty much what we talk about. The fact that it could also be a kind of an excuse. So I'll just get in the right zone and you'll be fine. But is that zone always like what you want to achieve? And I think like, yes, we need to do things to be in the right state, because you don't want to like go to your desk and be stressed or be like, I don't know, like worried and everything. But at the same time, you don't want to be just focusing on that and feeling bad if you don't feel like you're perfectly at top-notch level.
Yeah. And you know what I find really interesting? So there's one particular guy, hedge fund guy, I have quoted a few times. And I said to him, because he worked in one, like, he worked in one of the best hedge firms here in Australia, and also had his own fund. And I said to him, how did you deal with challenges like, sick family member, like stuff that really touches our heart and really throws us, which is normal. Like if you would not be thrown by a sick family member, then there's something wrong with your heart, seriously. I said to him, how did you keep performing on that level with the stress of running a hedge fund and the stress of the family situation? And he said he compartmentalizes. So when he is at work, like it's like the box that he puts himself in, and he pushes aside everything that's family. And he set himself up in a way that family members knew not to call him during work times unless it was, it's really necessary. When he was at home, work was gone. He was fully at home, compartmentalized again. And, during the night, he had to get up and check trades at certain times, which which you have to do here in Australia, obviously. And so it's all about compartmentalizing. That's what I found what the successful guys do, because if you work for Tudor Jones or Goldman Sachs, you can't necessarily say, sorry, I'm going to take 3 months off. They give you a few days off, but not 3 months. You have to keep performing. And if you don't perform, you're out. As simple as that. And we have to do that as well for us in our as retail traders.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
I think we'll have to wrap it up soon, but do you have any kind of last word or last advice for people?
Just reading through the...
Yeah, there's been a bunch of interactions. If you guys like this kind of videos, just give it a like. Or we should do more like this, and maybe take the question you have here and answer them later, because there's a bunch of them here, which could be interesting to talk about.
Yeah, so Swan FX, sorry, we can't get to your questions today. Disputed items, also, I see that you asked lots of questions. Maybe we do that next time. So we just want to stay on topic today. Sounds like my ex-wife. Oh, you're funny. Cool. Yes, so Arthur, you're absolutely right. You can feel shitty and still make money.
Yeah.
Because it's two different things. What happens is when we have limiting beliefs and value conflicts and so on, we need to resolve our feeling shitty. And then when we have this core strength, the hub, the zone, then no matter what happens in life, it doesn't affect us as badly that we can't perform anymore. We still can perform. Look at athletes, right? So we have the Commonwealth Games at the moment here. And there's this weightlifting girl. She won the gold. And her cousin just got killed in a car accident 5 days before the competition. Now, that would have been a perfect reason not to go and perform. But she used it as an accelerator. She used it as a reason why she had to win gold. And afterwards, she fell apart. She was crying and let herself feel the grief that comes with that really, really challenging situation. But she didn't use it as a reason for not performing. Yeah, and we have to be the same in trading. We have to get to a point where we can compartmentalize. What happened is hard and painful, and I deal with that in an appropriate time. Right now, I need to focus on my job. When I get home, then I can fall apart. Yeah. So, yeah, so much to talk about that.
Yeah. I guess we'll conclude it here because I have a packed evening with all the unpacking and stuff here in Canada. But yeah, we're getting back on the road soon. That's going to be pretty interesting. And we'll catch you soon for sure. There's more videos about the trip coming up in the few next days, which have to edit. They're going to be hard to edit and long to edit, but that's going to get done for sure. And we'll catch you guys pretty soon. Give a like if you enjoyed the video today, as always. Comment below if you have any topic you want us to cover, and we'll do our best to cover those later on. And we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you.